Welcome to New Hampshire, the Granite State, full of natural beauty, lovely little towns, and alcoholics. If you like being surrounded by trees and having to drive everywhere, maybe New Hampshire is the place for you. And for you freaks who enjoy a walkable community, you can live in one of our cities like Manchester, what New Hampshire residents the state over consider our own Detroit. Well, that in Rochester. Why? I don't know. Some people just say, Lamau, it sucks, and don't provide any reasons. I mean, I don't think I want to live there, but it is a really nice place to visit, especially considering it's got one of the few places in the state you get food that isn't just generic Chinese food, or some American food, or Millennial Burger Restaurant number 758. Seriously, if you're thinking of starting a restaurant in New Hampshire, please, for the love of God, do something other than burgers or American pub food. We've got plenty of that here. Anyways, Manchester's got some good eats. There's, of course, the obvious staples of any American town and city, like Italian and, of course, various American taverns. However, they also have noodle bar, Japanese, Mexican, Mediterranean, African, Indian, and probably more that I didn't care enough to name here. To those who live in a metropolitan city like NYC, this might seem mundane. However, New Hampshire has so many Frenchoids that finding anything that is actually seasoned is a challenge. It's no surprise that Manchester has more variety, since it houses the highest refugee community in the state. Plus, it's one of the few areas with affordable housing in the state, so it's quite popular. Unfortunately, what that means is that it's very overpopulated, which is one of the main reasons I do not want to live there. The other problem is that just New Hampshire overall sucks as a place to live in if you don't have a car, because how else will you get around? Okay, I can hear the comments now. What about buses? New Hampshire must have buses to allow people to travel. Well, kind of. Yes, some more populated or urban areas, such as my town, have buses within walking distance of most neighborhoods. However, they can only take you to areas that are close by. Even the C and J buses can't really take you around the state, only to other major areas such as Portland, Maine, Boston, Massachusetts, or even NYC. Let's say you need to get to Concord, the state's capital, from Portsmouth. Your best bet is to take a bus to Boston and then switch over to Concord coach lines to take you up to Concord. Look how far away those are from Boston. Of course, if you have a car, you can easily get there. However, if you don't have a car in New Hampshire, then you are up shit creek without a paddle. You want to go to New Hampshire, get a car, learn to drive. Well, okay, let's say you do have a car. Well, you'd better get used to the drivers here. No, they're not crazy or annoying like NYC drivers, and they sure as hell aren't as unhinged as whatever hellspawn gets behind the wheel in Massachusetts. Seriously, what the fuck is wrong with those guys? No, my problem is that they're the other extreme. They're way too cautious. Now, don't get me wrong. Being a safe and cautious driver is always a net good. However, New Hampshire drivers are so goddamn wimpy that it ends up circling back around to being dangerous. The hesitation is what I'm talking about. Look, if you're gonna cut me off, just commit and get it over with. Don't chicken out 5 times and then almost sideswipe me because you're both too prideful to go back on your decision and too scared to even take risks like that in the first place. Like, my God, the amount of times I've almost smashed into someone because they waited until the very last second to turn onto a road when they already had ample time to do so when I was farther back is insane. It's like if Bostonians had crippling anxiety. Another example is with lane changes. When someone wants to switch into my lane in front of me, but doesn't have enough room, they'll just inch over in their lane, do a bunch of other shit without actually moving over. Even if I slow down a bit and give them more room, sometimes they'll just give up and then zoom off. Only to cut across like 5 lanes of traffic to get to their exit at the last minute. Like, bro, I literally just gave you a golden opportunity to go in front of me and you just wasted it. Thankfully, though, traffic in New Hampshire is so light that you can just go for a peaceful drive, be the only one on the road, and it'll be 3 in the afternoon. I mean, my local freeway, Spalding Turnpike, when it has heavy traffic, it looks like Boston with light traffic. Planning for traffic is rarely something I even have to think about when going anywhere because I know that there's so little traffic that the GPS can basically be taken for gospel in terms of how long it'll be. Speaking of roads, take a look at our road signs. I am obviously biased, being a New Hampshire yokel, but these are my favorite state highway signs out of all the US states. Now, what is with this design? Whose face is that? That, my friends, is the Great Stone Face. He was our state mascot, which is why he is everywhere in New Hampshire. I mean, you can't go to any kind of state store or whatever without his face there. Unfortunately, his face fell off in May of 2003. Rest in peace, old man of the mountain. You would have loved Doug DeMuro. Okay, I think next, let's get a bit more, local. Let's talk about the New Hampshire Seacoast region, a place I call home, as well as countless other old people and college students. Never mind the fact that this Seacoast region is mostly made up of towns and cities that are very much inland from the ocean. Although, that's not a huge surprise considering that our coastline is just a tiny sliver compared to the giga-chad sizes of Maine and Mass. I mean, the Mass Cape is literally just a landmass that goes out into the ocean so that they can have more coastal land. Well, we do have something the Mass doesn't. Fireworks stores, which leads me to my next topic, border towns. No, not those kinds. I'm talking about all the towns on the border of Vermont, Maine, and Massachusetts. That's where all the fireworks stores, firearms dealers, and, of course, market baskets are. NH has no sales tax, so you'd be stupid to not run a business in a border town, or at least adjacent to one. Everyone from out of state will come on over for cheap shopping, and honestly, as they should. My honest opinion, sales tax sucks major farts. I think everyone can agree that getting a super secret money surprise at the register is kind of a cow-a-bummer, dude. My favorite example of a border town is Nashua, where the Pheasant Lane Mall is. I guarantee you'll probably find just as many Mass plates as there are New Hampshire ones. Particularly, North Central Mass folks love going to Nashua for their cheap shopping. On the opposite side of the coin, border towns in other states are where you go to get the wacky tabacky, that special grass, that puff stuff. For example, I live in Dover, which almost borders South Berwick, Maine. Technically, Rollinsford is a border town, but whatever, close enough. You can't even go 2 miles without seeing a dispensary. Okay, maybe there isn't one on Route 4, where the pretty downtown is, but believe me, once you turn onto the 236, you're gonna find what you're looking for. You're also gonna find some of those dog shit graphic design ever. Seriously, there's something I'm not getting here. How do stoners see this shit and think, yes, this is a quality product? I would not trust gangsta SpongeBob to even serve me a glass of water. What makes you think his weed has any semblance of quality? It's probably laced with concrete and, like, asbestos. And while on that subject, let's talk about my beef with Chris Sununu and Kelly Ayotte, my state's former and current governors, respectively. These two bum-ass pieces of shit, for some reason, are really weird with legalizing recreational marijuana in New Hampshire. Dude, why? Our state loses so much business to the dispensaries in other states, like the ones in the border towns that I just talked about. This is something that, although it won't magically solve all our problems, it's definitely going to help. I mean, if you want to argue anything about weed in terms of harmful effects, and alcohol and cigarettes also come into the question, why are those legal when weed isn't? I mean, the federal government tried to outlaw alcohol, and look how that turned out. I recognize that some of the individuals will rush to the comment section of this video to give their epic Reddit opinions on why this is actually garlic. But, bitch, I don't fucking care. From a money perspective, it just makes sense. From a safety standpoint, well, it still makes sense, especially when you consider alcohol and cigarettes, or other substances like caffeine, being legal. It just feels like a bunch of chuckle fucks who are either rage baiting us, or brains made out of oatmeal. Legalize it, please. Also, Chris Sununu crop dusted my sister's friends at Storyland. Okay, bye!